Welcome back to Real Phonies, where we take a love for movies and television and combine it with very little knowledge about movies and television. I'm your host, Christian. Join me, my co-host, Joseph.
Yellow.
And Jehu. Kind of doing something, I think, when we were searching for content back in the height of quarantine, we watched Castlevania. Netflix has released the final season, so I think Joseph and I watched it. Jehu probably has watched the same amount he watched when we did Castlevania the first time. But we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I've watched very little of it, so I'm gonna play the role of a point of view character, and maybe when this stuff sounds absolutely ridiculous, I'll ask you what it means.
That's probably good for this show because it's an odd mix of things, but mostly to me, it's almost soap opera-y in its overacting and over the top just nature of it.
Sure.
So it probably deserves someone to kind of clear the path through the nonsense.
I feel like if you haven't listened to our Castlevania episode, it was, a height of quarantine episode. It is, I would say, up to the final season, it had one bad season, which was the first season, and then two delightfully trashy, but very entertaining seasons.
Trashy is the right word to describe this show.
It for sure is. It's based off loosely some of the Castlevania games, but it's mostly kind of about a merry band. I say merry, it's very ironic. A very cynical band of adventurers going to kill Dracula and people who are associated with Dracula, but they're fucking boring as hell. Everyone else is more interesting in this show. This is the. I don't know if I get the impression. Did you get the impression that this wasn't planned to be the final season, Christian?
I think I do have an opinion on this, but it's more so spoilers. Because I don't think, they announced it's the final season, but then they've also announced some other stuff. It's not the end. It's very clearly not the end, I don't think. It does feel kind of rushed, if that's the point you're trying to get to.
That is the point I'm trying to get to. I will say, if this sounds something like you're even remotely interested in, watch it. If you want to be sold more, listen to our Castlevania episode from last year. But I assume that pretty much no one who's listening at this point is listening because they love Castlevania. I suspect if anyone's making it through this episode, it's just because they want to hang out with us for a few minutes today.
Let me ask you this. One of the reasons I had a very, very busy and stressful weekend. And one of the reasons I just couldn't get much into this is that I couldn't even remember where it ended. How did this end before we get into this season?
There was maybe I'm wrong about this, but I'm going to take a shot at it. A demon in the basement of an abbey that was trying to open a portal to the infinite corridor to bring Dracula back. Oh, while that's going on, also some lady vampires are planning to take over the earth, and Alucard has a 3-way in which he almost gets murdered. He survives. Lady vampires planning on taking over the world. They stop the demon in the abbey from bringing Dracula back.
Isaac's on a self-fulfillment journey.
Yep, Isaac is building an army to do apparently not at all what I thought he was going to do. Does that help, Hurt? Because I don't think you watched that far.
After our last episode, I went back and watched the rest of the show.
Oh,
but when I started watching it, I couldn't remember any of it at all. I remembered there was blood and there was Dracula and and there was an over-the-top grandioseness, but I couldn't remember how any of it played into a plot.
Yeah, I meant to go back and rewatch it before this, but then I just generally didn't have any interest to do that.
I may at some point go back and watch the second and third seasons, just because I enjoyed them. I'm going to say here on out is spoilers because, again, I don't think that we're convincing a lot of people on this episode. But just in case you were wondering, I don't necessarily think it ends super strong. I wouldn't give this season necessarily better than Transformers, but it concludes. I think if you've made it this far, you might as well finish it out.
I was going to ask about the ending that neither of you seem super happy with. Do you think that ending came about because of Warren Ellis's cancellation, or do you think it came about because of, Netflix's in general disinterest of anything over the second or third season?
I actually think it's neither of those things because I think we know exactly what it is, which is this show so far has pretty much been Castlevania 3 or loosely. They're going to continue making Castlevania. They're just going to do a different video game and with a different cast of characters. So they see this as the end of this set of characters. So calling it the last season was kind of a misnomer.
Yeah.
But we didn't really know that until it came out. However, that news, I think the show debuted on Thursday and that news came out on Friday. So there was basically no time to consume the 4th season without knowing that information.
Right.
I like the ending. I don't think the first half of this season is very strong, but I think the back half, the last 4 or 5 episodes, I think it's a fun ending. I think it mirrors the last season of Game of Thrones a lot. And I bought into this more than I bought into the last season of Game of Thrones.
I feel like I had less staked on this, so, fair enough. I will say, it's something that I think has been improving over the course of the show. I think they wanted to do a lot of stuff in this season, and their budget only allowed them to do so much stuff. I don't know if you noticed this, Christian. They had a mixture of looked like CGI and, traditional animation in here. And, it seems like they were saving a lot of the big animation scenes for the last 2 episodes. So like you said, kind of the middle episodes, we get a lot of close-ups of CGI faces doing dialogue and some other stuff. And I don't know if you also noticed, but besides the named cast members, there's literally no one else who speaks in this show.
Yeah. The credits are very short.
They're so short. I mean, there's really awkward moments where our named characters are addressing non-named characters, and they just they look and maybe they nod, but it's very clear that whoever makes Castlevania was not willing to pay the union minimum amount for just one person to say,
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask you, Joseph, if you thought, this is my biggest complaint with this season, is we spent a lot of time in season 3 developing the Carmilla.
Yeah. It is Carmilla
storyline. And a lot of these side characters, for them to get almost no screen time this season, to get an unexpected resolution.
That's exactly what I think was super rushed, because I think there were so many more interesting ways to go about this story. But I think they just realized this isn't the main plot. We don't really have time to resolve it in one season. So pretty much all of the 3 other I don't know how to say that, other 3 lady vampires who aren't Carmilla decide kind of independently that, oh, you know what, Carmilla kind of sucks, and then she dies. So fucking great writing there, I guess.
Yeah, we needed to spend a little bit more time developing that, I feel like. But see, this is where I say I think it kind of mirrors Game of Thrones story-wise, and I think I buy it more because it has less stakes for me.
Yeah.
This feels very similar to how Game of Thrones handled the White Walker storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Even with that resolution coming in the middle of the season. In an unexpected way. And I mean, I kind of bought it more, but I just would have really liked more time to figure out why Isaac has changed his mind. And
100%. And that's kind of what drove me crazy about this whole thing in general, is the tone of the last season and the amount of happy endings and not even good resolutions, but even the people that go out, which is pretty much just Carmilla, but I guess a couple other, but pretty much anyone who goes out on their own terms, everyone kind of gets a satisfying conclusion to their bullshit, which I don't think is mirrors the tone of this show at all, which is, I don't know, generally very pessimistic. And for a show that I feel is constantly aiming for a 14-year-old's idea of edgy, I was really disappointed by how many risky decisions they decided to make with the characters and the story arcs.
Yeah, I kind of felt specifically that way about how Carmilla dies in the show, which is her whole thing is she feels she lives in a world controlled by men, and she wants to prove that she can control it and she can take back what's been taken from her. And by having her kill herself, though, I feel like, I guess you're giving her the satisfaction of that ending while also getting rid of the character. But to your point about pessimism, it feels like no one ever gets what they want in this show. And there's a lot of that in this season specifically. And I feel like whether it be Isaac or one of the sisters having been the one killer would have been more true to the themes of the show or what the show has been, rather than her killing herself. But I don't know. There was just some strange character choices. I mean, and again, Isaac's one. Saint Germain is another. I wish we had spent
100%. Yeah, that one drove it. Also, again, the whole crux of his storyline is we're supposed to care about the fact that he loved this woman. That again, they didn't want to pay somebody to just go, yeah, yes.
They didn't even want to pay anyone to animate her. 100%.
So like, they're supposed to imagine that there's some kind of great relationship between the two of them that merits destroying, a large percentage of existing humanity to get back with this lady that's never fucking talked before.
Yeah.
I actually don't hate the Carmilla ending as far as like her own character, because I feel like to the flip side of your point of like, I think she projects like, I want to show everyone that I can control it. I think the flip side of that or the kind of the base instinct is like she is desperately afraid to live in a world where she is under a man's control again. And so that's like her underlying motivation for how kind of outrageous she is, but how aggressive she is about her worldview. And so for her to come in a situation where she knows that she might be again under a man's control, that she takes it, that makes sense to me. I just don't think she necessarily earns the right to do that.
That's exactly what I mean. I get why they made the choice and I can see it. I just don't know that it's earned or in with the correct tone of the show. And what I would have preferred to see maybe is one of the sisters be the one to kill her and almost her accepting that death because of the reasons we've talked about. I don't know. The her taking control feels like, I don't know, there's no lessons learned there or anything like that. Like it's just her still winning in a way, just not the way she intended. Like it's still very much I'm in ultimate control of life and death. And I don't know, like in kind of, I guess the way I interpreted that fight is that everybody won. Like she was in control of her own life and death.
I mean, that's kind of how I felt about everything is pretty much everyone who was, a substantial character we have developed at this point, like gets their little win at some point before the end.
Yeah, I guess my point being, I just wish somebody had lost.
100%. No, we're on exactly the same page. That drove me fucking crazy. Again, because
that's always how I feel. Watching anything, I just want somebody to lose.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's fine. They bring in Malcolm McDowell, which is I enjoy Malcolm McDowell's voice, so he's fine. But I don't think there's like anything they introduce in this season of substance that's really worth noting. Again, it is mostly spent the time wrapping up these storylines so everybody gets their little win before the curtains fall.
That definitely sounds like they just got to season 4 and somebody realized, oh shit, we haven't put Malcolm McDowell in this?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so I did want to, while we're talking about Malcolm McDowell, I feel like when the big, I don't want to spoil it for Jago if he doesn't end up watching.
No, dude, go ahead, because I watched those other 2 seasons that I hadn't watched in the last one way later, and I definitely did not remember one fucking thing you guys had said.
Okay, well, I feel like this is a big thing, but when Malcolm McDowell as Varney, fucking great. But when he becomes the Grim Reaper, I feel like we should got a new voice. Okay, I can't buy that guy's voice coming out of a 100-foot tall skeleton man.
That's fair, actually. It hadn't really bothered me because, I mean, honestly, the whole death thing was super gaudy and ridiculous in itself.
I think that is straight from the game.
Yeah, well, I wondered about that. There were a lot of things about this. Like, is this from the game? Like, there was a bunch of monsters that, like, so far they've done a good job of having like all these interesting, weird little monsters, and there were a lot of like repeat monsters in this. And I was like, are these monsters from the game that people know, or is this because they didn't have time to make more monster designs?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, to that point, I also wondered the same thing about some of the new ones. Like, all of a sudden, we have ones that can shoot like fireballs, like giant fucking things that shoot fireballs, which I feel like would just wreck house.
I will say to that, I think that one actually is in the game. The idea of like this weird
farmers being able to be
uncircumcised dragon was fucking unsettling. The whole design of that thing was very unpleasant for me.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable to watch, and I there was a lot of farmers with pitchforks winning fights they should not be winning.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think this is a good season of this show. I'm not sure that any season's like quote unquote good, but I think 2 and 3 are pretty good time to roll through. This one, it felt like fan service for fans of not this show.
Yeah, I mean, I would say a couple of good things about it. I really appreciated that this show almost has 2 entire episodes without dialogue in it. It has 2 episodes that are just straight mass murder that I thought was fun to watch. I had a good time watching them. The other thing was I liked what happened with Hector. I just wish we had gotten more time to develop it. I thought they made interesting choices with those characters. I just wish we had earned it a bit more. And kind of to your point originally, the side characters are more interesting. Like, no,
100%. That's the thing. Like, to me, I mean, Hector and Isaac, I think, are the most interesting, and to watch them develop independently and then theoretically reconflict would have been interesting, but that's not really what happened. But even the vampire like quartet thing, the oligarchy thing that they have is really interesting, because like even watching it, even the early part of the season, I felt like there was stuff to be mined there where, as Carmilla's ambitions continue to grow, that, instead of everybody being like, oh, maybe that's too far, it would be more interesting if some of them were on board with it and some of them weren't. And then they start like, especially within the couple one where one's, essentially Yasha from Critical Role. And the other one's like, the brains of the outfit. I could totally see that being an interesting dynamic where they are conflicted about how the direction that Carmilla is taking them in, and that causing, internal conflict, which is interesting, but that's not what they did.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm sure you said it when we did this last time, but anytime that chick's on screen, I'm like, that's Yasha.
That's 100% what it is.
And I did enjoy the ending. I wish, again, spoilers, I wish Trevor had died. That would have probably made me a whole lot more on board with everything. Like, I just wish somebody had lost, or that winning would have come with a sacrifice.
Yeah.
But it didn't, unless you count Saint Germain, which Bill Nighy is a treasure, so maybe it is a loss.
That's true. Maybe he can show back up. Who knows?
What did you think of the? They say it's after credits, but it's fucking not. The Dracula bit. Did you see that coming?
I mean, I don't know if I saw it coming, but again, it just felt like, to me, in the context of this show, I don't know anything about how the games are. It felt weird that people kept trying to bring Dracula back, because by the time Dracula got killed, he was like ready to fucking go. So to think that he'd come back and like wreak havoc on the world again just doesn't track for me. But to bring him back is just like, okay, we already kind of liked this character, and he already kind of had a happy ending by finding his wife in hell. They're still in hell, but at least they have each other, I guess. So they brought him back for, I guess, a second happy ending that we didn't really need. I don't know. It's fine. You're like you said. We're setting up for the next one, I guess.
Yeah, that's all that was. Is he going to be pissed off again? Like, that's the only thing I'm not looking forward to about it. Unless Dracula ends up being the hero of the next season of this show, I don't know that I'm really interested in seeing him being the bad guy, because again, that second season is fucking great.
Yeah, he's so good. Graham McTavish kills the shit out of Dracula as that part.
I'm happy he's back because of, I like that guy in that role, and I like what they've done with that role, but I don't see the plot with him that makes it interesting. But
yeah. Anyway, if we keep talking about it, just makes me more mad about the last season. So I'm
yeah, all I was going to say was your little bit about, him finding inner hell and having a happy ending and somehow bringing him back. That would be a great time for the point of view guy to be like, this show sounds like nonsense. It would be correct.
Well, you guys were on a roll, but so I didn't really want to interrupt. But I mean, I think point of view guys should have probably showed up for Uncircumcised Dragon.
That's true.
Well, see, now I feel like you have to at least watch that far to see exactly what I mean.
I both think I should and also am not looking forward to it.
But yeah, that's Castlevania season 4. The whole thing. I would say as a whole, I would still give it better than Transformers. But it is frustrating when the good bit's in the middle. I feel like you should start and end strong.
I'm going to go better than Transformers, and it would have been much better with an extra 3 episodes or a season before this.
Yep.
Where Trevor and Sypha and Alucard had not been in it at all.
In the whole series or just the season?
No, that one season. Yeah.
Okay, I would be okay if they're not in the whole series, but
I'm going to go with listening to you guys talk about it was better than Transformers.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
That's all we can hope for.
No problem.
All right. Well, that's it for Castlevania. What have we been watching this past week, guys?
I was really struggling to remember what I had watched. And then I remembered that I fucking watched Picard, and it made me so mad.
You when you texted me about this, it was after my bedtime, which is why I responded at 4 a.m. But am I ready to talk about this?
It has a lot of the same problems Discovery has. Okay, I didn't say this on Discovery, and I need to say it now, and it's also retroactive to my complaints with Discovery. There are 2 ways to make TV, and it used to be you did serialized television, where you had one bit and you just did that bit over and over and over again. Star Trek is born out of serialized TV. And then somewhere in the early 2000s, we had TV like The Sopranos and Lost, which came out with episodic, which is you had big chapters that you would tell over several episodes of TV, which is what CBS has decided Star Trek should be. And it should fucking not. It's terrible. It is an awful fucking decision. It is not how Star Trek is supposed to work.
Man, and here's the thing also, that's a particularly weird decision from CBS, which more than anyone is hanging on to like procedural one and done episodes of television. Like nobody else is really doing that except for CBS. And for some reason they were like, but for this, we should try to do these big arcs that we're terrible at.
Yes, agreed. It doesn't make any sense. Maybe I'm just a fucking sucker, but supposedly the Pike show is going back to serialized format. It's just going to be individual, stories with the Enterprise. Great. I'm excited to see that because this doesn't work.
Right.
And it's we've kind of always known it doesn't work because I've watched every Star Trek movie 20 plus times, even the fucking bad ones. And it doesn't work when the story is more than 2 hours. Like none of them are great. Some of them I enjoy watching, but I admit they're not good. Wrath of Khan, fucking great. That's the only one. Like Star Trek, those stories need to be about 45 minutes. Star Trek, the motion picture is 2 hours, and there's 15 fucking minutes of them flying around the Enterprise because they didn't know what to do to fill up time.
Right.
This show does not work. And by this show, I mean Star Trek does not work when your story is longer than that. It doesn't. And so the fact that you're giving it to me in 10 hours is bad. Is bad. Again, I said I don't like. I have no problem cussing. Obviously, I've cussed a lot in this rant. But if someone ever said fuck to Jean-Luc Picard, he's bitch slapping that person, and it happens multiple times in this show. And I don't get why that's a justified reaction. Like I don't know. Like it makes weird choices. Romulans have been a big part in what CBS has decided to do, and I don't really understand why. I have no problem against the Romulans, but they've been fucking central. I don't care. It's just whatever. Again, is Next Generation era, so you feel like you have to include the Borg. And someone thought, hey, the Borg are like robots, and Data's like a robot. Let's make a show about that. And that's not enough connective tissue to justify bringing back the single best character in Star Trek in Jean-Luc Picard. It's just not, and it's really disappointing how bad it is.
We're just going to go ahead and call me and you one thing, because I'm going to talk a bit about this too. I think that when they were deciding that, hey, we should, instead of doing like these single sci-fi stories like that is Star Trek, where you say something about the human condition, or, you know, maybe even politics or society or race through these analogies in science fiction, instead deciding, hey, we're just going to do this big overarching chapter. I think they decided that because of things that the Next Generation did well, because the Next Generation did have arcs, you know, the Borg and Data, you know, Data's ongoing, you know, interactions with various versions of himself and his creator and stuff. And then they decided, well, hey, that's what works. Let's just do that. But they didn't have anything cool to say about either of them. I personally, the first maybe 2 episodes of this, I was on board. I was psyched. I really liked the way it sort of springboarded off of Star Trek Nemesis. It was like, okay, you know, we're going to do this thing that a lot of people didn't like, and we're going to make that our premise. And I thought that was cool, and I thought that was daring. And the second they get on that ship with that goddamn Josh Whedon style Scooby Gang, that this show is fucking over. Like, it is just, you know, and I shit on that idea a lot here. So I want to be clear. I love that Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I love Angel. That shit is played out. It's 2021. Let's do something else.
Yeah, there's a line in this show when he has like the Romulan caregivers, and you bring up a good point, Jehu, both with your arcs and with Nemesis being a launching point for this show. So I will retract part of my statement. The arcs thing, I think they're still like, it's just like little tidbits spread out through the entire show. Like, what fucking the joke at Encounter at Farpoint, and then coming back to that at the end of the show. That is simply reward for watching. I mean, it builds up for sure across the entirety of Next Generation, but it's not like it's been a constant thing coming up the entire time. It's just little bits thrown in there, except for maybe the Locutus stuff. I guess that is a legitimate arc. That's like 5 episodes.
I should say, it probably sounded like I was disagreeing with you about the arc. That I guess I didn't fully say my thought. I think the arcs work in the Next Generation specifically because they're not the norm. So when something that happened over 2 episodes or was revisited, since that had never been in Star Trek before, it made it feel, oh, well, this is an important thing. Just like also, you know, the Worf Klingon stuff that came back. This felt important. When you do it over a whole show, it doesn't feel as important. It just feels like you're watching a really long, boring episode.
Yeah, well, the point I was going to retract is, it does make a good justification why the Romulans are such a heavy part in this show. I had just watched Discovery season 3, where they're also a big part, and that was what was in my brain. But you're right. I think it's because of how Nemesis ends. That is why that's such a big part. But let me ask you a question. Why the fuck why is 7 of 9 in this show? Just because she's former Borg. But it is bad.
Yeah, no, totally. It 100%. It seems like it was maybe a backdoor pilot, but also I think it was more just like, oh, well, people like 7 of 9 and she's Borg, so we can have an excuse to have her in here. Because it doesn't further the story in any way. It's just its own little separate side story.
It's some Cara Dune bullshit is what it is. I mean, it's just, it's really disappointing. It's really, if it's supposed to make me feel like Next Generation again, it does the exact opposite job.
Right.
And you know what? They fucking sold me. This is what pisses me off about this fucking network and these shows is they showed a trailer of Picard season 2. All it is a chess set with fucking Q talking. Of course I'm going to watch that shit.
There's no
of
way
course
to not watch that.
Yes. John Delancey's coming back. Sign me up. I'm fucking there.
No,
but
totally.
It's so disappointing. It's so disappointing. Worse than Transformers.
Have you guys noticed that over time, all the things that I feel like are geared toward nerd culture also seem very much to hate nerd culture? Like
No,
they hate
totally.
you. They hate you for enjoying this, and they know you're going to do it anyway.
No, totally, 100%. That is absolutely true. That is like, okay, we know these assholes will be here anyway, so we'll actually put our effort towards selling it to someone else.
Yeah.
The biggest insult I have to say about this show is this. Christian, in text, I told you I didn't even finish it, but I didn't really lay that down clearly. By not finishing it, I mean, I didn't watch like 4 or 5 episodes and say, I'm done with this. I watched all but the last episode and decided there's no fucking way that this ending is going to do anything but piss me off more. So I'm just not going to watch it.
Wow. That's hard to do, man. Not just watch one 45-minute episode.
Yeah, no, I literally like any ending I'm going to come up with in my head is probably going to be better than their ending. But you know what? I didn't even care enough to devise my own ending.
Oh, the only other thing I want to bring up is, okay, Bruce Maddox is in a fairly interesting episode of Next Generation. He's a very central part of this show. I think a completely ass backwards version from the guy we saw in the Next Generation, personally.
Right.
Why in the world is he making out with a girl who definitely was born after that episode came out?
right, totally. 100%.
It is disgusting.
Yeah. But 100%. I don't even have anything to add to that except for it was awkward and weird.
Is that Star Trek? Is that Picard?
That's Picard. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Fabulous. Well, I'm gonna round out the triumvirate of content that we've brought to the table today that no one else is going to consume. But I'm gonna try real hard on it, which is I watched an anime movie on HBO Max because we love HBO Max. Please pay us money. Called "The Night Is Short, Walk On, Girl." It's technically an anime, I guess. The animation is more reminiscent, and I don't know how else to say that. Closer to like Looney Tunes. Like it's a really expressive animation. Like there's people in it, but they're very like loose forms of people. But the basic premise of the movie is it's a college age guy and girl who get invited to the same wedding, and after the wedding, decided to hit the town and explore, have a good time kind of thing. And it's literally like this whole vibrant underground like nightlife story is really what it's about. The closest thing this is a really obscure reference that maybe Christian will get. It reminded me of a very specific episode of Fairly Odd Parents where Timmy wishes to like stay up all night because he thinks he's missing out on whatever the adults do after they go to bed. And like when he stays up, he finds out that there's like adults have the secret dance party after all the kids go to bed. And there's like elves that show up before morning and paint the grass with dew before you wake up and like shit like that. And that's kind of how this movie feels. It's all about like this kind of secret semi-fantastical-ish world that, only happens after dark, only happens after a few drinks, in these closed doors and stuff. It's really, really good. I don't feel like I'm doing it justice. The main gist of the story is the girl is just kind of like embracing the moment and being wherever she's at. The guy is constantly trying to force his way in to profess his love to the girl, but is going against the fate of the evening and is constantly being thwarted by all the other weird shit that's happening around him. And I do feel like that's something I'm underselling. It is a weird movie. I watched it with the wife, and she did not like it because it was too weird. But I really was smitten with it. I thought it was really, really original, and it really stuck with me. And it's just a beautiful looking and entertaining movie. So The Night Is Short, Walk On, Girl on HBO Max. I highly recommend it.
Interesting.
Yep. Check it out. Watch the trailer. Maybe. Anime trailers are always terrible. Don't watch the trailer. Just watch the movie. It's an hour and a half.
I was just going to say that I already stuck this tag on the band Dream Theater at one point, but I think you should just name this episode "No Girls Allowed."
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely what it feels like.
This one was pretty geeky even for us.
100%. But it's over now, so this is the end. Mercifully for some of you, I'm sure out there. Next week. That said, we just said No Girls Allowed, and I think we're going to do Zack Snyder next week because Army of the Dead comes out.
Army of the Dead? Yeah,
well, we can do something else, but it does seem topical.
I mean, it is free.
Yeah, so we're probably going to do Army of the Dead next week, so join us for that. It's probably not going to be good, but it might be better than Transformers. I don't know. So thank you guys for listening. Please rate, subscribe, tell all your friends about the podcast. If there's anything else you'd like to talk about, you can reach us at realphonies@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Real Phonies and on Instagram at Real_Phonies. Thanks to Zach Evans for art and Brian Velasquez for our theme. We'll see you guys later.
Later.